Dave, do you want to go ahead and start us? All right. It is 6 p.m. on October 17th, and I'd like to welcome you to the MEDC board meeting, and we will jump right in with public comments. Oh, sorry, we do have a quorum. We are missing Dan Walker and Byron Sanford, but we do have a quorum of the rest of 5 members. So public comments. Dave, do we have anyone who wrote in, and we don't have anyone in the audience today?
We do not.
All right then, let's go to item number 1, minutes of the September 19th, 2022 regular meeting. Does anyone have any comments, questions, alterations to make about these minutes?
No.
Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September 19th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of this. Yeah, the minutes and the meeting.
Carol? Okay.
I did read them.
It has been moved by Jeff Angelo and seconded by Wade Nelson that we approve the September 19th, 2022 minutes. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Any further discussion on this item?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of the September 19th, 2022 regular meeting say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we will approve the minutes of the September 19th, 2022 regular meeting. Item number 2, approval of the September 2022 financial report. Carol, would you like to discuss?
Yes, ma'am. The interest rate on the tax pool accounts went from 2.22 last month to 2.85 this month. So it is progressing a little, and we have moved some more money. It's not in this report, but some more money has been moved from our I think the checking account over to the tax pool, and trying to get as much over there as we can.
I signed a check or a wire transfer for $150,000.
He said it was less than 200,000. So, and then the sales tax transfer of $91,173.12 was transferred on October the 14th. And other than that, we didn't have that many checks this month. And I think all of them were explanatory there. So I didn't have any questions for Anthony or Rebecca. So I think we're good.
Yeah, so this is the last month of our 2022 fiscal year. So we will have a full year comparison year on year. Dave, what we haven't seen recently is the SRI sales tax people. Is that a report that they've done recently for city council?
They will be here this coming meeting till the 25th.
Okay.
They plan on being here to report. That's why
Okay.
they're once a quarter reporting.
Okay. I need to look at the calendar to see what we're going to do for November and December. We might need to or choose to not have meetings for November, December. We don't always, but if we do have one, we should probably put that in on our agenda so we can look at it and see how our sales tax
Absolutely.
has been doing.
And I'll put a note, I'll send the public report out to all of you guys.
Okay.
I apologize for not picking up on that, but I'll be happy to get that to you. Sales tax is still looking strong. It's a minefield out there though, so they can see.
I was going to say, I think how much it jumps depends a little bit on new store openings, especially Discount Tires. Probably the big one that'll influence us. Otherwise, I still worry about cannibalism of all the food stores opening, whether that's actual organic growth or cannibalization. And then a lot of the expenses in here are quote walk related, and that's something that happened straddling the fiscal year. So that's something that's going to have to be dealt with every year, whether it's in the next fiscal year, the expenses, since it's in early in the fiscal year, probably for next year. This year it's straddled, but we're going to pay most of the expenses and receive any revenues probably in the prior fiscal year and have the event in the next fiscal year. So that's something that's just going to have to be noted and dealt with year in and year out, that it's always going to make Anthony unhappy and just be a constant problem. It's not conveniently located Any other comments, questions, notifications? We'll entertain a moment to approve the September 2022 financial report then.
I will make a motion to approve the 2022 financial report.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the September 2022 financial report. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor of approving the September 2022 financial report say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we will approve the September 2022 financial report. Item number 3, a proclamation acknowledging Wade Nelson, Montgomery Economic Development Corporation Director, for his assistance in the purchase of the Adams property and his commitment to furthering the MEDC's mission of revitalizing the historic downtown. Jeff, would you like to announce me?
Would I like to announce? Yes, I'd like to announce this proclamation for our dear Wade Nelson. What a great job. A small golf clap.
Very small.
Whereas the City of Montgomery recognizes Wade Nelson for providing the city and Montgomery Economic Development Corporation with service on the recent property purchase within the historic downtown, and whereas Wade Nelson acted with the intention to preserve the historic downtown area, ensuring that this property located on Highway 149 and FM 149 remains recognized as the gateway to the historic downtown Montgomery. And whereas Wade Nelson has served the citizens of Montgomery, Texas as a board member of the Montgomery Economic Development Corporation since January 2022, always ensuring the city maintains its unique identity while seeking development to enhance the city's financial situation for both residents and businesses alike. And whereas Wade Nelson is being recognized for his guidance, recommendation, and waiving his professional fee for the recent real estate transaction, as well as his continued service to the community, and now therefore be it proclaimed, the Montgomery Development Corporation does hereby recognize Wade Nelson for his time and dedication to the city and MEDC, and urges all citizens in joining me with our appreciation for his selfless commitment to our city. Thank you very much.
Maybe get a photo, group photo.
There was a lot more involved than I promise you that.
But we do appreciate your time and effort with this very much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Hey, you want to take a picture of all
Well,
of
heck
us?
yeah, let's take a picture. Let's get up here.
We should have had an audience.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We had nobody.
We didn't put it on the
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
board down
We
there.
should, yeah, the electronic sign.
I would love to take credit, but it wasn't just me, I promise.
I'm gonna move it in a little bit. Awesome, we'll go on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's take one more. We're gonna go on 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
Good deal.
All
All
right.
right, thank y'all.
Stick that on the website.
Absolutely. Or we don't have pictures of our board members currently, so we could always,
So October 17th is Wade Nelson Day, right?
That's it. All hail the king. That it wasn't on Halloween. Right, yeah. Everybody gets free candy today.
Everybody gets to dress up like that.
We'll be passing,
Not too hard to do.
we'll pass the ball caps out, everybody.
That's right, not too hard to do.
That's funny.
Yep.
all right.
That's cool.
Item number 4, consideration and possible action on funding Wreaths Across America project for Montgomery Memorial Cemetery. Dave, if you don't mind, I'll introduce this.
Yes, please.
So last year was the first time Wreaths Across America came to the city of Montgomery, and they laid wreaths in memorial to the past residents in the old cemetery and the new cemetery, and they had the Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, and the ROTC kids from the high school do, it was supposed to be a flag ceremony, but we had torrential rain on the Saturday, so we did cancel it. There was lightning as well. And they did it the next day, but when I was speaking to the organizer, I'd asked them if they could consider Memorial Cemetery as well, because there's obviously veterans buried at Memorial Cemetery, it's a historic cemetery, etc. And they said that they would consider it, and when I got in contact with them this year, they said, oh, it's going to be too hard, maybe next year. Well, you know, everyone knows me and how much I like to hear maybe next year. So instead I contacted Wreaths Across America and found that it is in fact quite easy to add a cemetery to their list. And so we got the old cemetery, Memorial Cemetery added to their list, and the fundraising for it is not a super onerous amount for the number of veterans who are known to be buried at Memorial Cemetery. It's only 40. And given their 2 for 3 program, the amount of money that we need to honor those veterans is $450. So, Memorial Cemetery is a unique cemetery, both within the city, the county, and I think in the state. And I think we can do more to make the people generally there known, which would be it would promote the cemetery the way that some of the people who are buried at these other cemeteries are added to the knowledge about the city and its history, and bring it more into line with what we do for the other cemeteries.
Fine, good idea.
So there's more information on Wreaths Across America below, and these, the ceremony will be on the 17th of December.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the $450 expense for Wreaths Across America to honor our deceased veterans in it's a Memorial Cemetery?
It is.
Memorial Cemetery.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded that we fund $450 for the Wreaths Across America project for Montgomery Memorial Cemetery. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor of funding $450 Wreaths Across America project for Montgomery Memorial Cemetery say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we will fund $450 Wreaths Across America project for the Montgomery Memorial Cemetery. Item number 5, consideration of possible action on installing electrical service at 777 Klepper.
As you know, the city owns 777 Klepper there adjacent to the MISD complex, and there's currently no electrical service. One of the things that the city and the EDC are looking to do is to move things like, or I guess I'll back up, the snow party was there last year. It operated on a generator. The movie night that's upcoming, right, is that on?
It was last Saturday.
Last Saturday, not this Saturday, last Saturday, was there, again, using a generator. And so what this ask is to obtain an electrical service pole there that would give us about 10 circuits. We don't have an idea or a plan yet to where to run lines internally there. A lot depends on kind of the scope and future use of the property, but certainly the first step is getting electric service there. And the public works director feels like for about a couple $1,000, he can get Entergy to set a service pole there. He's spoken with them. What he doesn't know yet is whether or not there's a transformer on the pole, exactly what all that transformer is already going to. So don't have a detailed cost yet, but wanted to ask what you guys thought about getting electric service to the property.
Do we plan on keeping that property?
As far as I know, that'll be a decision that council makes. Certainly, we've not spoken about, divesting ourselves, from it yet. We are planning to, or I'm planning to bring to council an idea on how to go about a facilities, planning process that would be a little different than the way we've done it in the past, but, certainly it's, part of a larger conversation about.
What sort of ideas have been floated for that space? Do we know?
We when we had first started talking about it, so right about the time I got off council and joined staff, we were, they were looking at making the purchase. So one of the first things that I did on staff here was to come up with an idea for a parking lot on the eastern half. And so there's been talk of, kind of an overflow parking lot, for downtown that could also serve, if we decided to build something on the property one day. There's been talk about a pavilion type thing going there. There's been talk about a dog park being there. If you can throw the ideas around, there's been all sorts of talk about a lot of ideas. But,
Too valuable a real estate for a dog park.
one of the challenges, again, has been kind of a lack of a really good formal process to kind of suss out the need and, what's the goal before you start, figuring out.
So the city's outgrowing this location, or the police department's outgrowing, either one. But, is that in y'all's opinion, is that the ideal location for City Hall? Or is there
some yes and some no.
I was gonna say, when we
Yeah.
first bought the property, that's certainly
That's
what
it.
our intention was. to-
That was the intention when when the
When you
purchase
bought
was
it,
made,
yeah.
I
yeah.
think, again, to me, like Carol said, there's some yes, some no. What's really been missing is just a very good, kind of programming effort to,
Yeah.
that you go through to say, well, what are our goals and what are our options, so we can figure out.
I mean, I don't think you ever sell it because you can't replace it. Yeah, I mean, the value of real estate around here is tripled in some cases, so, I mean, I don't know, if you sell it, what do you do with it after that, so, or where do you go to locate something similar?
Right. So the short answer is, we're probably not, doing anything with it in the short term, and that, to my mind, is the 1 to 4 year time frame in terms of actually, doing something to improve the property, but.
I mean, adding an electrical service, I think, is a plus, if anything.
It's not gonna hurt it, that's for sure,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And
I'm in
say
favor.
You kind of have the ability to have more events and do more things there.
At least
if there's
utilize
electric service,
Yeah.
That, if
Is
you
this
go
the
along
big
with
lot
it.
right next to the admin building?
Right.
Yep.
Which
It's not
side
the
is
one
it?
to the west, but it's the one to the east.
Oh, this over here, okay.
On the east side, where the playground equipment and all that.
Ah,
What's the playground equipment? Is that just public use?
It got moved, actually, it just kind of came with the purchase, and I want to say that Mike had taken that down last year or sometime like that.
Oh, it has been taken down?
It was not certified safe.
I think
is
it was
that like 5 acres or?
4.7.
What's that? Okay. And I mean, I'm in favor. I think it's a great idea. I mean, that's where we're hosting events, eventually parking.
Parking's always
Yeah,
had a
that's-
need in there. So,
If you put a parking lot on there right, then, what you can do, if you ever do decide to build something on it, you've got a parking lot there that'll work. You just
Right.
have to be kind of thinking far enough ahead.
Yeah, parking's a major, I mean.
Anywhere down here, yeah.
Anywhere, yeah. Well,
Yeah. And, in terms of the pavilion idea, that's kind of it's a big investment if you do something that's really amazing, but on the other hand, it's also not as big of an investment as like a $10 million city hall, which is like what the city of Bernie spent on theirs.
Right.
So that's why I'm using 10 million as a reference. Not that we need a $10 million one, but they are a lot more expensive, as it turns out, than, we thought going in.
Mhm.
it ain't gonna go cheaper anymore.
No.
Everything's gonna,
No, so that's why, like Dave was saying, we need to have an idea of, like, what is the city's ultimate size going to be? So in terms of admin, like, how many people do you need in each department? So how many offices do you need? I felt like, with the city hall, it was almost full by the time it was built, and that wasn't necessarily the best forward planning. And so when you go ahead and build something that's such a huge investment, you want to know, that it's going to last more than 5 years. So, even if you're spending a little bit more on the front end, it'll last a lot longer on the back end, which means you need to really think for a while about what your ultimate size is. So,
well, I think we should at least get some electricity to it. What do you think?
I do not think it would be money wasted to put
No.
electricity down there.
Well, is it okay to make a motion for that then?
I was gonna say, do we want to do like a top price on it, or does Mike think that $2,000 will cover it for sure?
Yes, put a $2,500 top, number on it. He said if it ends up where there's a transformer or something that we can't do it for that, then we're gonna come back to you guys, explain it,
Okay,
after
that's fair enough.
evaluating, still makes sense or doesn't make sense.
Okay, so not to exceed 2,500.
Carol, do you want to make a motion?
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion that we
I'm on
approve.
council, I'll let you make.
Oh, you're on council, that's right. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the $2,500 cap expenditure for the electrical service at 777 Klepper Street.
I second.
Sorry.
I second, yeah.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve a not to exceed amount of $2,500 for installation of electrical service at 777 Copper Street. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor of a not to exceed $2,500 price on installation of electric at 777 Copper say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we approve a not to exceed $2,500 price on installation of electric at 777 Klepper. Item number 6, discussion on future participation in a project at 213 Prairie Street to increase downtown public parking.
So directors, you'll notice here, there's not an action item. This isn't an actionable item. What I am doing is bringing this to you guys for discussion to, as we talk about, just sort of an update on the downtown project. As you know, that McCown Street is underway. One of the things that was identified was a parking issue downtown, both in the site analysis and in the recommendations from the 2021 design master plan for downtown. So that the plan hinged a lot on public-private partnerships, so that in other words, going to private folks with parking lots and making agreements with them to use a portion of the parking for for to be dedicated as public parking. To my mind, the way that you need to start that is by demonstrating your own commitment as a city to building parking downtown and improving the parking situation downtown. Before we start explaining which spots are going away, the conversation would go a lot better if you can show what spots you've added. So as I just mentioned, I do intend on starting the conversation for a facilities plan with the council, so I don't want to get ahead of that, but one of the things I wanted to do was ask just your general direction, I suppose, on the MEDC funding for infill parking project that, to my mind, we own 213 Prairie as a city. When you look to, well, what is the highest and best use of that land? Right now, one of the big things that is needed is public parking. So be happy to answer any questions or discuss any of the details with you. Again, this hasn't gone to council, so this isn't a, hey, this is about to happen. But if I'm going to go ask council if I can have some land to build a parking lot, I've got to find the money to build a parking lot first.
So are you thinking about 1313? Is that the
213?
213? Whereabouts is that?
So it's
Right
a whole
across from-
night inspection.
Yeah, night inspection right
Right across
the
from
parking
you,
lot.
Across from me? The old Knights,
old
Yeah.
fire station.
oh,
Yeah, so the
okay.
city owns that property.
I think it's
You
this
got,
one.
yeah. You guys bought that, or the city bought that?
Yeah.
So what do these colors represent? I'm not quite clear.
That's the
So
master
if we
plan.
go through,
If you go to, you see this?
see which page I'm on,
Oh,
page 71 of your packet there,
Oh, which page is it?
75.
you're on 75.
Oh,
No, he's not
I
on.
wasn't on the right page. Sorry.
You tell me what page you're on, I'll get on it.
All right, no, I probably needs to be the other way around. Right there.
Go down.
Down.
Oh, man.
Okay, it's just taking a second. There it is, okay. Okay, so you guys, are y'all gonna just kind of raise that building, or are you gonna just leave that building there?
Right now, we're still open for discussion. Again, the initial intent was to put the police department there, and the police department came back and said, no, we think it's gonna be easier for admin to go there, and it felt like we were making a whole bunch of real big decisions, way faster than I was comfortable. I asked council, this is in probably July, said, look, yes, we're out of space, with where we're at, but if we can pause this long enough to get through budget, and then come back
Okay.
and again, start a process, so we don't know exactly, again, what I guess.
So you're just maybe thinking, let's just use the existing parking lot for overflow parking for the most part?
No.
Well, the existing parking lot will stay tied to the building, so right now, there's that, at the top of that little sketch, there's
That's
a one-way
existing,
parking
that's
lot
the
going
new-
through,
Oh,
it's
they
got
wanna
about
take-
15 spaces.
That's all green space right now.
So right now it's all grass.
Okay, I got it now. You think I know what it looks like. I look at it every day.
Well, some of the
It's-
things that are in plain sight are.
I know, but I just don't, I didn't realize that we had that. Listen, I'm in favor of anything that has to do with parking, okay? This last event, I mean, they inundated our parking lot. They had people with hay rides coming through our parking lot, picking people up and dropping them off. And if it had been the following day, we had 130 people coming for a wedding. They wouldn't have had any place to park. So anything we can do to expand on parking, I don't think Diggs is coming back to downtown, at least according to his Facebook site. But I think he's better off in a situation where he can get more people in anyway. But for our downtown events, we absolutely need more parking. It was the first thing we talked about when we originally very first meeting, it's like we got to figure out a solution, so.
I think if you roll back to page 73, you look in, the public parking is about 110 spaces, the private parking is 324. So we can do more, I think, to, have relationships with people who aren't using parking at certain times of the day and, that sort of thing. But, with the 149 project and the McCown Street project restricting the public parking even further, we have to do something to at least make that 110 spaces the same or bigger. We can't make it
Well,
smaller.
that was my question. What do you think is the optimum number? I mean, I know the sky's not the limit and we could use as many as we can get, but what do you think is a good number to have?
Like it says, to me, for a situation where you, have very limited on-site parking in a lot of the properties, you really do need to weigh heavily on the public parking because, again, there's just a number of businesses that don't have the parking down there. And this is on, just, the normal days. I mean, we're looking at about, 25 spaces, 10 of those being on-street parking, but then, the 15 in a lot. So we're really not, truth be told, we're adding back parking that we've recently lost or are planning to lose.
Okay.
With some of these downtown design projects and with the property next to Cozy Grape. So, again, we have a lease on that. And so while there's, technically, is there still a lease on part of it? There could be, but we've taken a restaurant that's got, 13 spaces and said, hey, we're going to use some of these, for public parking too. If you ask yourself going into that, if that, seemed like a good idea to you, you probably would say, hey, that's probably not the best place to look for,
Right.
some type of a public,
But Pete, the partnerships like with gyms, because gyms' parking lot is not full 99% of the time unless he's got a car show or something like that. I mean, our parking lot is typically available most of the time, unless there's an event going on, but it's hard to, you're playing with fire because you don't know, these events can come and go at any time, you just never know. Cheatham might be interested in doing something. I mean, you've got access with the gate and the paved road and everything else going in. So I think maybe working towards a partnership with some of the local businesses to, especially for event days like that, as long as you can make them feel comfortable, insurable, so they're not getting sued in case somebody, trips over a brick or hits a tree and, just something to make them feel whole. It'd certainly be a lot cheaper than paving spaces that we don't have for the most part, but even if we did partner with others, it's a sticky wicket when you're talking about linking up with a business and, what happens if that business sells, then you're...
Right, and I think the other problem is that, you go downtown on Tuesday, you can find a parking spot. You go downtown on Wednesday, you can find a parking spot. You go down on Thursday and Friday, you can find a parking spot. Most Saturdays, you can find a parking spot, and surely on a Sunday, as long as it's not like from 11 to 12. So, our problem is on specific days that generally we know about in advance because they're related to specific events, in which case the private relationships don't work as well because you might have a wedding. The church might be having an event, our private relationships are all breaking down at the same time, or they all get flooded at the same time, because 324 private parking spots, that's hardly anything if you have 1,000 people coming to town.
Well, let me give you a little bit of information that might be helpful. Before Cheatham bought the property in front, we use that for overflow all the time. And I mean, you can fit a ton of cars in that space over there. And I think in terms of, working out or working with them in terms of there's nothing going on that property at all. So it's a really good, it's the lowest hanging fruit. It's the closest to the downtown events. And I think it would be a great, look to build some sort of a partnership. His biggest concern has always been insurance and making sure that he didn't he wasn't held responsible if something were to go wrong.
But that is very weather dependent then. We were actually talking about the Fed properties that people generally use during events. And, you know, if it rains for 2 days prior, you know, 3/4 of the cars that get in there are not going to be four-wheel drive, which means the first 3 or 4 everyone can get in. And then like the first 3 or 4, maybe a dozen can get out. And then after that, you know,
It could be, Becky, but I mean, even on rainy days, we never really had any problems. It's not gumbo over there. It's been there a long time, so it's packed pretty good. I'm not saying that it's the perfect solution. I'm just saying it's a possible addition to whatever, you know, augmented plans that we decide or think that might be a good, you know, push it forward. But parking's everything. It really is. It's really the number. I think that's one of the things that keeps a lot of people from coming downtown is because there is nowhere to park. But then you also have the Kroger, and you know that parking lot's not in use. I mean, for most part, most of it's not in use most of the time. So just a few little. I mean, it doesn't take much. I mean, we're only talking maybe 2 or 3 tweaks, and you got yourself, you know, 100, 150 parking spaces. Double what you have now.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm in favor of doing whatever, but I think we need to, if we address this, I think we'll have, as far as economic development goes, we're gonna have be able to bring a lot more people in for events, and that's what this is all about, right? That's what we're here for.
so kind of on that, I'm investigating, I talked to the Woodlands Township actually about using their trolleys, and they have their trolleys under a federal grant, so they're very constrained, but for Christmas and having off-site parking, we've talked about that before, but the lady who's the head of their transportation department recommended a group that they work with when they need more than what they've got. So I'm gonna get a quote from them.
Love that idea.
So we'll see. I mean, you know, it's probably gonna be in the $3,000 to $5,000 range for one day, so.
That's, I mean, for the character that adds to the city
Well, we
and,
won't get the trolleys, we're just gonna get big, you know, like charter buses. So the trolleys are off limits to us because of the type of event it is, unfortunately.
well, maybe in the
It's sad.
future. But that would be really cool. Any kind of transportation, I think, would be great for, rather than just bussing people around in golf carts.
Right.
Well, it's just the volume, I mean, you know, we're trying to decide, I was trying to talk to the guy about, you know, how many people come to this, you know, use their vehicles to come. And I thought, you know, after last year, maybe 3,000. And so then how many would be willing to park off-site? So maybe a third of that. And, you know, if each of his big coaches takes 56 people and they can make a round trip in 15 minutes, that's loading on and loading off. So 15 minutes, actually, you know, 7 minutes each direction doesn't sound, you know, like they're lollygagging. That, you know, that's only like 220 people per hour that they can move. So you need 3 coaches to get people, you know, from, you know, 8:30 to, you know, 10-ish when the parade starts. I mean, that's how you move 1,000 people. It actually doesn't take, I mean, that's a lot of buses you need just to move that small amount of people. It's actually really incredible to think of the logistics of moving the type of people, the number of people that we have coming.
We could do like an Elon Musk boring tunnel. You know, it'd be really cool. How much is that?
I'm not sure yet.
Maybe a thousand.
Is that less than 1,000?
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
man.
So anyway, we're definitely, because after last year, you know, it was a problem, so we're aware and, you know, still investigating options. but-
So are we looking to try to do something for this year? I mean, we're getting close, right?
That's what this would be for.
Okay, yeah, we gotta jump pretty quick if we're gonna do anything. I mean, certainly, like I said, low-hanging fruit is, you know, God forbid the weather's inclement, but let's say if it's good weather, the Cheatham property would be one, Kroger for sure would be another. As far as moving people back and forth safely,
But people don't want to walk, so that's why, you know, even though Kroger is conveniently close, you know, the Baptist Church across
Kroger?
the street is close.
oh, you're talking about Berkshire Brothers.
No, I was talking about Kroger. People wouldn't walk from Kroger downtown.
What? That's too far.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so you'd have to have a bus situation from
You
there.
actually said Kroger.
Oh, I didn't mean to say Kroger. I meant to say
Yeah,
Brookshire
you were saying
Brothers.
Kroger's, and I was
Oh,
like,
my Lord.
they're not gonna walk that.
I don't know what I was saying.
Berkshire Brothers parking lot.
He meant Brookshire's.
Yeah.
Berkshire is not a possibility for parking because, I mean, we're already inundating them with the parade line.
Parade lineup.
So that parking lot's already packed by 8 o'clock, 8:30.
Okay, so, all right, forgive me. I was thinking Brookshire Brothers.
Yeah, sorry. I should have picked up on that.
Okay, well, yeah, no, Kroger's is too far.
No, I mean, throughout
Well-
Texas, as everyone here knows, the best parking lots to be had, small town, large town, are your ISD football stadiums. It's a
Yeah.
Texas fact.
That would be a great one, but you're saying we need a lot of buses.
You're gonna need them from anywhere that's outside of about a 400-foot walking distance.
Well, work for the rodeo.
Yeah.
They charge admission though. But you could literally, just have a small stipend just to cover the cost.
Well, we want people to use this more than we want to make money. I mean,
Okay, well then we pay for it then.
Yeah,
That's the
I was
only
gonna
two
say that.
options.
But yeah, I think, that's,
So-
not everything we do brings us money, but for something like this, I think it would bring us a lot.
So can we get some numbers together so that
I'm supposed to
we
be
don't have a lot of
getting an
time.
email from them by tomorrow. So I think, staff will have to decide whether it's a yes or no on the price.
Is that a council thing or is that an MEDC thing?
I think, MEDC has the budget already for Christmas, so if it fits in the budget, then we can do it.
Can we vote remotely or something if we have to?
No.
No? So we have to call a special meeting for something like this?
If it fits in the budget, then it doesn't have to be voted on.
Okay.
I
Well,
mean, assuming that you guys.
what do you think, Carol? I mean, don't we need transportation if we're gonna park off-site?
The buses were used back, I want to say, on the old West Fest, and they parked at the football stadium, and they were the Friendship Center buses, which were smaller, like you're talking about, I think. And that was where the parking was. There wasn't anything about downtown. All the flyers, all the information went out, and that's where you parked, and it worked out great. I thought I don't remember hearing too much bad.
What about teaming up with like Say I Do Limousines or one of these other local, they have those minibuses that might be willing, to get the plugs and won't charge as much for it. They're in the city of Montgomery, and just a thought, Say I Do is a really good company to work with. And you see a lot of times you'll see their vans parked behind the fire station. So I'm just saying that from the standpoint
We
of
can look
getting,
into it. The only thing they would have to have is they'd have to have enough insurance for them to be able to work with the city, because the city's insurance requirements for everything are more stringent than.
well, I mean, that's all they do is try, bring people, they're very professional, so I can't imagine, what's your COI requirements is like 2 million, 4 million?
I don't know, I'd have to talk to Nikki and she'd have to call
Yeah.
TML.
I'm sure they could, even if we had to pay for it, if they gave us some sort of quid pro quo and the advertising alone would be phenomenal for them. So something that they would probably consider. Just a thought.
Okay.
Say I do.
Okay, I wrote it down.
Brian Edwards, the fire chief, I think his wife and him,
That's exactly who it is, yep.
Okay.
and they park them there, and
Yeah, Tiffany, right. They do a lot of, they do some stuff with us
Yeah.
once in a while.
yeah.
Anywho, okay, so that's it for that one?
Yeah, so we're taking the parking seriously. So what I hear you saying is that if council says go forward with the parking idea, that EDC will probably participate financially, or is interested in engaging further and participating.
And again, it's not a hard ask here, just a general direction that it seems like a project that you guys would support.
I mean, that's our number one concern. Absolutely. I mean, I'm speaking for me, these other guys need to chime in. But I just think it's always been a very, very, very big problem. It's got to get remedied. It's not going to get remedied talking about it. We're going to have to do something.
It's only gonna get worse.
It's only going to get worse. When is the, what about, I was going to say, what about the lot we just bought? There's not a very big space, but
I don't think that
Yeah,
it,
you've got a little bit of opportunity to expand some on-street parking down, 5, 6
Yeah.
spaces maybe at the most, and, you reach a point where you've gotten, too close to 105,
yeah.
that you.
Yeah, I agree. I just was tossing out. Well, yeah, I
the
mean,
most logical next place to look is at the community center, and the surface that we already have there is very underutilized.
Yeah, I was just looking.
that's true. That's another good space. You talking about the new
What
community center?
about Larry Jacobs' property across the street that he was gonna do the houses on?
Yeah.
In
Have we ever,
quick numbers, I know that it was an idea that was discussed about a year and a half ago, and so Richard and the engineers, kind of did some quick, math on it. I mean, to get the drainage stuff in there that you would need to build a parking lot, it's a few $100,000, project for lease land, would be that's a lot of investment for an unknown, I mean, you know that Larry would make good again on any type of lease that he had, but if the property sells and, then you improve, private property using public money and didn't quite get your return out of it.
is his property for sale?
I do not know, him being a realtor,
I was gonna say, if he's not personally attached to it, he's rather commercially minded, so I would say that if it was the right price, he would sell it.
Well, that piece would probably be better selling it to the public as far as buying it than some of this other that we've been trying to sell to the public. If it was sold to the public as a parking lot.
That's funny, because it was suggested several years ago and turned down.
Yeah.
I heard Southern Roots is being relocated too. They're just picking up the house and moving it off.
So the building is owned by Southern Roots, the property is owned by the Historical Society.
And the Historical Society isn't playing nice, or what's going on?
Well, they have never been willing to sell property, that's kind of their MO. So like they own a piece of property over on the south side of town that is, the Simonton House used to be on, and it's still owned by them, and without the house, they just aren't interested in selling, so that's kind of their philosophy, I would say.
Well, there might be some more parking there too, for something to think about. Because they're going to be moving that pretty quickly from what I understand.
we do lease the back half of that
Yeah,
from the phone company, because that lot doesn't go all the way through to Main
Right.
Street. It stops about halfway between 189 and Pond.
well, I know the Historical Society would probably like to get something out of it if they could, because their leaseor is gone.
Right.
And they're picking their house and moving it, so.
The 777 Klepper, just no room for parking there.
There's a,
We just don't know what the purpose of the land's gonna be at this point.
right, I mean, there's certainly, a lot of room, again, for, a few hundred spaces over, or actually, about 250, something like that. From the east of the property, coming to the west. There's potential for access to 105 there in between the fire station and A&A plants. Just needs a good access agreement or even dedication as a roadway that, or to the city so we could, turn it into a formal driveway. But, the idea, at least in my mind, would be, you could get folks, right off of 105 into a parking lot, and then also have a way out onto Klepper Street. So you've at least got a couple of points of ingress and egress, and again, you're not sending folks through, smaller streets to get to a parking lot. You get to it, right off 105.
Yeah.
So,
You just have to decide what you're gonna use the property for before you build a
Right.
huge parking lot on it. And then you're like, oh, if
Right.
only I made it a square instead of a rectangle, that would have been perfect.
Right. So,
Well, we got some options. Just work the options we have and get through this year, maybe see if we can't become a little bit more focused on getting some parking next year. I mean, we have to, right?
How long is the lease with the phone company?
I've never actually seen the lease.
I thought it was just a few years at a time.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't seen it.
Whether
Because
in-
the telephone company will send it to you
Gotcha, yeah, I have.
when it's time to,
I've not
or they
seen
did
it.
in the past.
Yeah, I've not seen it on.
You might ask Nikki to research that.
Mhm.
I was just wondering, because,
We
you know.
pay
one of the
$1
reasons-
to lease it.
One of the reasons that, you know, we did pay the lots, and although we did terrible leases, that doesn't mean that the idea of paving it was wrong, that you have a lot more efficient usage of flat lots when they're striped,
Mhm.
as opposed to when they're dirt.
Okay,
So, that's all we got on that.
That's a good short one, it doesn't.
let's
make
move
sense.
to the next one.
Okay, so yes, if everyone's comfortable, we'll move on to
Wow,
then
yeah.
item number 7, consideration of possible action on selection of a proposal for the wayfinding signage project.
Directors, in, I believe it was May, either April or May, the EDC authorized staff to publish a request for proposals for wayfinding services for the city. This would be both in the immediate downtown area as well as other entry points to the city, major corridors and things like that. This wouldn't just be for downtown. What this proposal is essentially the framework that all future, directional signage and informational signage would be based off. So basically, and with the idea that there's a phasing plan on where this stuff goes. So be happy to answer any questions. I know the RFP was included in the packet here. It's a long one to get through. The high points of it, again, to me, were, looking for a company, if this is something you guys want to proceed with, you want somebody who feels like they've done projects like the one that you're wanting to do. After reviewing the two, so we received 2 RFPs, both from large national companies. One was in the mid-50s mid-50,000s without any reimbursable stuff included in it, which meant it was probably closer to the low 60s. And the second one from this merge design for just under 70,000 with all the reimbursables included. So if you want to pick one of those 2, this company Merge is the one that I recommend y'all pick. We have to answer any questions or discussion.
I'm out of my league.
No, I was impressed with it, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's important to go ahead, just because I think, with some of the changes that we're making, we do need to be able to communicate with people as to like where to go, for parking.
What do you
And,
think, Wade?
if we're investing
Sure,
in
right.
signage, then we should do it right. And also the psychology of getting people out of their cars and walking, from, especially,
I just don't know. I mean,
as things are
Yeah,
less
as long as it's
available,
done.
like spots, encouraging people to
Professionally,
walk instead of just
yeah,
around the
not
corner. because
tell
I
of
mean,
the-
when you look, their proposal is,
It looks
So-
great.
It does. I'm sorry.
They
I
don't
didn't
have
mention
It looks really
anything
It's like,
in
they've
mind
got other pictures,
to
like, I
do a
think they
sign
said
in
at
Montgomery.
Fredericksburg.
As long as we're
Because
getting
we
away
haven't got
from the
that
saloon
yet.
look,
Is
yeah.
that
yeah,
right?
no,
No,
it's,
I think it would be professionally
doing-
done well. So.
Is picking a company, and then we'll tell them what we want our signs to look like.
Right.
Is that right?
Well, kind of. I mean, part of the thing of using them is that they have the design skills to look, kind of come here and look at what our style is and see what's appropriate for us and recommend something for us. We could say, no, that's terrible.
you have it up?
Can you come up with a
can't see
plan, a
it.
different plan for us? But we wouldn't say, okay, so we want our signs to look exactly like this.
Verizon.
Otherwise, It would be a question hiring them.
That's Fredericksburg.
So
they matched it to the German
Translate
Yeah.
that.
That's classy.
Yeah, it is.
And again, not really, the science this big with these elements, but
Okay.
You know,
So
super
they'll
clean.
see the
Yes,
signs that we already
Yeah.
have.
It's not some wooden,
They'll come back
yeah,
No, no, it's
come to the bar.
not hokey.
with a
It's
plan
very professional.
I know,
of
right?
signs.
Should I gavel you guys?
Yeah, it looks
probably
good.
should.
It looks good.
They're
No,
having their own little powwow, but just kind of showing the pictures. It looks beautiful. I mean, this is a very buttoned up company. You can tell that the proposal was extraordinary, really. It was very well
They've
done.
got a good track record of doing work for cities in Texas.
Yeah.
I was out in Fredericksburg, over the summer, because I look at things like this, I thought, man, I don't know who did this, but this is really good work. And
Yeah, they-
It's a good choice, Dave.
Yeah, no, it's a good.
Yeah, they tied in the local culture, like Fredericksburg, the German type feel into their signs without making it look cheesy. And same thing with Mansfield, they look really clean and
Yeah.
concise and
good idea.
fits the,
Yep.
I think it's important to emulate cities that have done it right. Yeah, we don't need to act like we're pioneers and going out and doing it on our own. You know, there's a lot of things that some of these towns have done really well.
I was gonna say, it wouldn't be wrong to, admit that, we wish that we could do many things that Fredericksburg has successfully
Right?
done.
Heck yeah, they're good.
Yeah, no, they've done it well, and there's several of them behind them. Yeah.
So,
Okay, so is there any actionable item on this?
Here is, so on this, let me jump back up to my, if you want to move forward with this, then you would authorize me to make any final negotiations if you guys saw anything, or just to execute the proposal, as submitted, and
do you think we need to make final negotiations, if there's anything that should be changed?
there's not. I had a conversation with the guy who submitted this, one of the two principals. There was, really nothing that I think we should change. I mean, again, I think, what they've, have lined out in what they say they're going to deliver, to me seems,
Did sorry to interrupt, did they give you a date as to when they would have some information back to us?
not yet, no, if only because I just didn't ask.
Okay, I would say that we want to have some, we're all driven by deadlines, maybe make sure that we have at least some, benchmark.
They do have I'm going to find it here in the packet, they've got a proposed timeline. It's down toward
I
the
did
end
see
of it.
It's on page 143.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that was a norm, like for our,
It doesn't have dates, but it's
Right.
like weeks and
Right, so.
that type.
it's just that whenever we start, they'll stick to the schedule.
Yeah.
okay.
And then, Dave, do we need council approval for this?
I'll look into that and make certain.
Well, if it's gonna go on
Yeah.
streets and
I mean, it's
stuff,
a
I would
budget.
think
Oh, sorry.
you would have to.
No, I meant before we
Oh.
do the contract. But,
The contract wasn't but 69,000, is that right?
Yeah.
yeah, but we have to have approval for everything over 10
Over
unless it's
10.
specifically budgeted, and I'm not sure that this was, if it was rolled up into another item.
I'll look and see that, I mean, the adopted budget, has a line item there that,
Okay,
and so I think it works. but
okay,
We'll certainly double check.
Yeah.
okay. Don't sign anything until,
Did they say how often they'll come into town? Which I think is covered under reimbursables. I just want to, since it's a national company, I don't know how big of a local presence they have, and I want to make sure we're not getting,
Right, they've got 7,500 in there, and I believe that includes 3 trips,
okay.
plus maybe their, initial one. But they've got a plan for 3 presentations, which
Okay.
I'm expecting that they are going to be here. Let me see if I can go up a little bit and look at their.
Looks like they have 3 steering committee presentation, and then 1, 2, 3 public meetings happen around the same time. So public and steering.
Right, so I believe they've got, it lines up with the three. I felt like I saw somewhere, and I just can't find it right now.
Okay, so what are we doing?
You're making a motion to,
Well, I was just curious if we are concerned about them making sure they come down into town to
Okay.
meet with us.
So you could authorize final negotiations and subsequently authorize the assistant acting city administrator to execute the contract if you wish, pending confirmation of them actually coming to town before doing the design.
Yeah, and during the design would be nice too. So can we word it in a way that we leave it up to Dave to,
If you feel comfortable with that, you can be as specific or as vague as you like. Which of course reveals how much you trust him.
We love Dave. You want to make the motion?
I could just read it, I mean, we're giving him room to negotiate. So just as long as Dave, you can follow up with them, make sure that they actually have money and expenses set aside for them to come into town. So I can make,
Because I think the Texas Village concept that Jim, designs the downtown around is something that I'd like to continue. Again, not hokey, but it seems like they understand the fine line between heritage and kitsch.
Okay.
But they might have to come here to kind of capture it.
you said they have an office in Dallas?
I think, yeah, that's what he
Yeah.
says in the,
Yes, ma'am.
they're based in DC, but they have an office in Dallas.
They'll come.
So I assume they have a representative in Dallas that will come down.
You tell them about our good restaurants, they'll come.
Yeah, you don't want them to miss a cozy grate.
Hey, I'm sorry, this was not the firm with the office in Dallas. The other firm was the
Oh, okay.
one that had a.
So where is the?
Okay, okay. So this firm is where? Pennsylvania.
The
Uh-oh.
other firm was out of DC.
They have,
Yeah, I may have to change my vote.
Oh, boy.
Pennsylvania.
So these guys have done downtown Austin, and so I'm just reading the examples that they had in there.
they say they have a single office in Pennsylvania, yeah.
Garland, Dillon.
Downtown Dallas, Mansfield, Fredericksburg, and downtown Austin. So, I mean, if they don't live here, they got a pretty good idea of what makes Texas tick.
Yeah, they've done a good job so far. I looked at several of their sites, and they're buttoned up. This isn't this is not fly by night.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's just important that, like Ryan was saying, that we make sure that we get our money's worth when it comes to having them visit, not just the town, but the people who work and live in this town and kind of get some feedback on what they might want. But I'm sure they do that. It's got to be a part of their, their discovery when they're pulling this thing together. But anyway, I'll let Ryan make the motion because I don't even know what to say.
Make a motion to authorize the city interim administrator to negotiate and execute a services agreement with Merge Design with the understanding that they will be coming into town for their presentations.
I second.
Does that work?
It has been moved and seconded that we authorize the interim city administrator to negotiate and execute a service agreement with Merge Design with the understanding that they will be coming to Montgomery, Texas. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor of authorizing the interim city administrator to execute a service agreement with Merge Designs, acknowledging that they will be coming to Montgomery, Texas prior to their final design and to meet with people, et cetera, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously, and we will authorize the interim city administrator to execute a service agreement with Merge Designs pending aforementioned changes.
Okay.
Item number 8 and 9, development report, city's engineers report, other reports, updates, etc.
As you all know, we've had 2 festivals, and this was the note from Becky, I'm going to give her credit, and to say that I think, even though I didn't attend it all day long, that the quilt walk seemed to be a huge success.
It was good.
It was a good turnout.
Yes.
That I went through, and feel like that was the kind of, patron, I think, that would also be, consistent with, who our restaurants are looking for, who our other shop owners are looking for. I mean, I really do think that that type of, artistic level and just kind of, I guess, the overall, appreciation for handmade things just seems to go well with what a lot of the downtown folks
Totally agree.
do.
It's a very good thing. I think all the festivals we've done so far have just been huge successes, and coming up with the street dance, and just everything that's been going on is so folksy, if that's a word, very home felt, very back to the way things used to be, and just very comfortable. I mean, the people come here and I hear quaint, cute, adorable, historic, unique. I hear all kinds of words, but the one thing you feel the sense that they feel like they're at home when they come here. And I think that if we can maintain that, it's a pretty cool vibe, when you come to Old Montgomery. That quilt walk, we got a great lift off of that at the restaurant. I saw that. The festival itself, the music festival, was really cool, but I just don't think we have enough space to pull that off where we are downtown. But aside from that, we know the fall festival, there should be one. I just don't know. I just don't know. It just seemed like it could have been bigger if we weren't limited. Does that make sense?
Right.
I didn't see, so Charlie said that he's not coming back, having the fall festival downtown again?
Well, he said that in his Facebook post.
I think, from what I heard, it became overwhelming from a city standpoint where he was reaching out for permits last minute and having to do things that he wasn't used to doing at other places.
Got it. It's definitely, I think been a learning experience for everyone, and it's possible, that many people in a small space and a gated space, it just might be too much for downtown. It's difficult having merchants who want to be out and merchants who want to be in.
I don't think it wasn't that it wasn't well planned and that it wasn't, the intentions were good. I just don't think there's enough space. He brings in some pretty, heavy hitters, mm-hmm. and you need space. More people could have attended it. The Ransoms area, and he may find a different area. I don't know. He's talking Anderson and some other space. I don't know where he's going to go, but I think you need space. So unless we can provide him something that's a little bit more amenable to a bigger event, we're probably not going to see him around here much. So just something to consider as we go forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the downtown area is what makes it kind of cool. It's what brings the doing it out in the field for a crawfish festival doesn't enthuse all that many. They come regardless, but you're sitting out in a grass field. There's
I've
nothing
been doing
special
this
about it.
since Julianne Huff was just kicking off her career.
Yeah,
I remember going to see her in the Ransom field.
Yeah, it just there's something unique about being in a down. That's why Anderson kills it when they do it.
Right.
And their downtown area is smaller than ours, but there's a way of doing it. I don't know. There's probably needs to be more planning ahead of time. It gets crammed in to the last 2 months before. And if we're going to do something that big, it needs to be well thought out and planned. Yeah, you can't close down 240 or 149, but
As I said, that's the other problem, is that you don't have the ability to make the footprint larger because you obviously can't close 149 for that whole time, and then when you move one block out in the other direction, you get into a residential situation, so you can't really go north because then that's like, you're they're blocking almost all of the east-west access unless you have people backtrack and then go through Buffalo Stripes to get around. And it's a tricky logistical, I mean, we run into it with the parade as well. The historic Montgomery was not designed with large concerts or parades in mind. Very inconsiderate of the founders of Montgomery and their town layout. But
Yeah, I mean, it gets done. I mean, Conroe obviously has much larger events and they figure it out. And I mean, and it's whether we want to have it or not. I think it brings a lot of vibe to the area, but and the right attention.
Yeah.
I mean, these events have gone off pretty harmlessly.
Yeah.
But
I loved it. I just think that it like Wade's saying, we need a little more planning. And I know we're stretched, but at some point, maybe we should just sit down and say, we've done it twice, what can we do better? And try to figure out a way to streamline the red tape so he doesn't feel choked.
I think the red tape probably would get to anybody. It's just.
I mean, so the flip side of that is, when you've got a state law and you just say, well, the PD is literally looking at, well, do I ignore this state law or do I ask him for, proof of compliance?
Well, and I get that. Yeah, I get that. And this is nothing to you personally at all. It's just, at some point, any governmental agency has to use common sense and not go, there's the book, that's what we're doing. That's why people hate government, because this is the way it is and no common sense is involved. And so that's where I think you get a lot of pushback, even from businesses in the community. Yeah.
But the problem is they're bound by the rules. I mean, they didn't make them, they just have to live by it.
Yeah, but the rules are bent for a reason, and there's common sense.
Well, that's what's called
common sense comes into play.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we have the problems we have, not here, but anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Common sense isn't used.
Well, there's not a lot of common sense. You got people who can just fog a mirror, that's
Right.
And sometimes they're not really the business.
I mean, business and government that's the reason why they operate totally different, and one's efficient, one's
what
not.
can we do better to maybe inspire these businesses who want to put on an entertainment venue? I mean, what are the choke points, do you think, that would streamline that a little bit more, or at least?
I think just, again, planning. I think getting ahead of it and just, because there's huge benefits to it. I mean, if we sat here and did nothing, we're a quaint little town with history.
Right.
Which is great, but, I mean, maybe there's probably a big chunk of people that would prefer never to see it again.
Right.
And, we got to decide which direction we're going.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these events, back to kind of the demographics of who you bring in,
There's a reason Fredericksburg is Fredericksburg,
Right.
I mean, they didn't stick their hand in the sand and say it's not coming, because they would not look like Fredericksburg if they ignored it and acted like growth was not going to happen.
Right.
So growth is coming, we just have to figure out a way to streamline it a bit.
Well, I mean, I think, the quote block was an easy thing to get behind because it was really low impact, and if it happened again, people would notice, like, you saw a bump, but it didn't really, there are people in parking lots, there are people in town, but, there's no bombing in bushes or fighting or anything like
Right.
that, or at least not that I saw. It's not really the demographic for that. So, that was a pretty non-controversial one, but, for something like this, you run a question of, okay, so on one hand, a lot of people came to Montgomery and saw it, but did they shop in our regular businesses? Did they eat in our regular restaurants? And then what was the cost for all that on the other side? And, we need to go back and talk to more businesses than I have. The businesses that I talked to did not see a huge bump or any bump. People were not shopping, they were going straight in, and if they were purchasing anything, it was more of the consumables there, the alcohol and the food, and they weren't even really purchasing a ton at the vendors in there. So, it's great having people come and maybe they're at the gas stations or something like that, but how do we measure the economic impact from all those people coming? Because maybe 20 of those people want to buy houses and move their families out here now because it's the best place to live.
Right.
And that obviously has a knock-on impact that, it's a gift that keeps on giving. So
I don't think every event we do is going to have mass economic, uplift.
Yeah.
I mean, the week before the Quit Walk was great from a business standpoint. The Diggs event, not so great, meaning great for the city, but not so good. But you can't have it all the time.
Right.
Like it can't be euphoria all the time, and so I think sometimes just the buzz of having your name mentioned in the same circles as some of these artists that were, in their millions of followers is not a bad thing, because everything these days revolves around social and social media and social impact. So I agree with Wade. I think. And Charlie's kind of a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. I think maybe, and I've said this before, we need to, if we're going to be serious about working, we need to kind of, pardon the pun, dig in and really, partner with him and try to figure out how we can be better together. And, I think there's groups, people like, you've got engineers and you've got real estate developers and people who know what they're talking about, know how to build that. We don't have to have a, quote, events person to do that. We could meet with him and probably make some inroads and find out what his choke points are and see if we can't get ahead of him this time. But I love him. I think what he brings is a cool vibe to the city, especially for people in Wade's age and younger.
How do other cities measure the impact? Like Houston, it says Rodeo Houston brings,
So they're looking at a lot of hotel beds.
Right.
And so once you have your hotel beds booked, then you can assume restaurants and things like that. And that's how you get your economic multiplier based on people coming in.
Yeah.
So, and we don't have that, so it's definitely a lower impact.
Okay.
We don't have it yet. We'll get it till someday.
But I mean, the feel from the general public, is it, this is no good, we need to move a different direction? Because I think we're at a serious crossroads right now. We can either really do it good, or we can just be a pass-through town. Yeah.
I mean, I think people generally are liking they want the visual improvements from like the 105, 149 downtown plan. Nobody's gonna like looking through the disruptions that causes, so, hopefully we can mitigate that. More events, people love the quality of life events, the Charlie Diggs event, there were definitely some naysayers online, but it was weird that, most of the complaints were about the price. And, for me, $25 or $30 at the gate, that's silly, because I was paying that to get into the park when I was 20, so.
Yeah, you can't even walk in the theater.
Yes.
Yeah, so I wasn't exactly sure, whether that was a concerted effort or, just kind of crankiness. I mean, of course, the economy is a little bit tricky for people, so, $25 hurts a little, or $30 hurts a little bit more than it used to, but that's that's 9 hours of entertainment if you came in at 1, so that's, $30 for 9 hours.
Pretty good value.
Very good value.
Yeah. I think I agree with Wade. I think we just need to try to figure out a way to, to look at, you got some great intel here. You got a guy who's willing to come here and, throw his shingle in the hat and see if he can, he can drive something. I think it's a good event. We just have to figure out how to partner with him a little bit more. Maybe, just sit down with him early enough, or sit down with anybody who's coming with an event like this, and find out where the bogeys are, and let's get ahead of it so that, there are no, like any event. I mean, when I plan an event, we start talking about Christmas in January. Valentine's is already put to bed. I mean, you've got to think things through a little bit ahead, and because we only meet once a month, it doesn't really give us, we have to do something outside of MEDC where we, get boots on the ground and go visit people and kind of.
And that may be really us. If we're gonna hitch up to him and say, yeah, you can do 2 events every year, or whatever it is, we may need to be pushing him to come in earlier, because he's gonna wait. He's got other events going on.
Right.
He's gonna wait till the last minute before he comes here, so.
And that's, in terms of, what staff can do, they can't start until they got something to start on, and,
Right.
so it's hard to sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, it may be good just to kind of debrief. I mean, it's, you hate to lose a guy like that who's had some success, and he probably, anytime we do an event, a big event, I always say, I'm never going to do that again, and then the next year comes along, I can't wait to do it again. So I think, sometimes you get spanked a little bit, but doesn't mean it sticks in your craw forever. We just,
He's local and,
Right.
I
kind
would
of
say
what,
he's done a lot for our community.
He has.
He does for a lot of communities, but he has for ours particularly. He's
Yeah.
done, a lot for the PD, for the
Yeah.
Lions Club, for scouting. He's a really good contributor to our community.
he knows how to put a show together.
he sure does.
Yeah, so.
He gets the people coming. So, do you have a relationship at all with him?
I do. Yeah, I think we all probably do, but yeah.
I don't know.
I do.
I mean, I know him.
Good guy.
Yeah.
He's local. He's always been local, and
Yeah,
he got an enormous following.
yeah, he does.
So
Well, we should just reach out to him. then.
you don't want to be on his bad side on social
You
media.
don't, you don't want to be on his bad side.
He's got a lot of people that he doesn't need to take up for himself. There's a lot of people that will take up for him.
Yeah. But he does need to come in earlier,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
because
We
if
just,
has a list of things that bother him for him not wanting to come back,
right. We need to figure out
maybe
what that
we can
is.
fix them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
If we can't, then, he has to make that decision.
right,
Yeah.
But if the city can fix it or whoever,
yeah.
then
Totally
he
agree.
just needs to,
Well, one thing I am
Maybe
going to
come
say
in.
is that last year, our employee spent weeks working for him essentially and not for the city. So, and that was kind of a problem with our position is that, she ended up working for other people's events and didn't have time to work for our events. And so, a lot of things were handled last year that were not handled this year because
That makes sense.
right?
either his firm would have had to do them and nobody here was doing them.
Right.
Well, he was at that meeting
complicated.
and we mentioned something and he said, who do I get with on that? And we all just pointed to him, back to him.
Yeah.
He
Well,
And he
I'll
was
say
so
this, okay? When,
knew, close to his deadline. So-
yeah, when he was hosted over at Ransom's, I mean, we wanted to bring a food truck in over there or do something, nostalgic food truck over there. And I said, but we want to make sure that we know where we're going to be located. Oh, well, it's just first come, first served, just anybody park anywhere. I mean, he's really good at getting the talent in. I mean, like, I'm good at some things, but I'm not good at everything. And it just happens to be one of the things I don't think he's very organized when it comes to the merch, to the food, and some of the other aspects, booths and things like that.
Or he just does it differently, yeah.
Yeah, he just doesn't do it, whatever. That's just doesn't seem to be his bailiwick, but that's kind of what the city cares about. The city wants to drive revenue off of that. They pay sales tax when they come in, and so I think maybe I'm not saying we assign a person to it, but certainly, we could probably pull some of these choke points out of the way well prior to the event so that, all the ducks are in a row before it gets kicked off and everybody's on the same page and he's not fighting and scrapping, trying to get things pushed through in the last minute because nobody likes that. That'd be a sticking point for just about anybody. So anyway, well, we didn't have our Amy this time around. So that's one thing we can honestly say that, we probably need somebody.
Well,
Focus.
but again, when she's working for him, she's not working for us, which means that we're not getting other things done. So like the quilt walk, which, we were all along told wouldn't happen because she was too busy doing other things. So like Charlie Dick. So is that, like one of the things that we have hoped to have with our own person was events that,
We don't.
add to our slate of events, but if you're busy working for other people and not working for the EDC, is that the way that position was supposed to happen? Was not my intention when we hired.
Well,
So-
Yeah, I'm just saying we can define that later. Right now, we just need to decide, you know, if where the choke points are, we bringing them back? Is it something we want to do again? Is it beneficial to our town? And if so, what does that look like going forward? And how much do we want to invest our time and treasure into that? So, but we do have someone coming to fill that position eventually on Parkside, right?
Well, kind of, but they work for Public Works and they're not going to be chasing down
They're not.
permits and things like that. They're
Yeah.
doing what Mike wants them to do, and
Right.
that's, you know, that's definitely
Okay, so,
completely clearly delineated job that's not
yeah.
working for a third party.
Well,
So,
maybe we pull somebody in to do that, just to help on some of these special events, even if it's just for a part-time, you know, here's a stipend to help smooth this event out. Because the bottom line is we're going to have more of these events.
And that's kind of what you did though with the $8,000, right? Was here's a stipend.
I agree. I agree. Well, then maybe we should put a precursor on that this is coming for you for this amount, for this reason, and this is what our expectations are for that. So I don't disagree at all. I just say, you know, here's the problem. We drop, the real catalyst here is that the person who was there helping them last year wasn't here this year. And there was nobody to fill that gap. So things got dropped, and understandably so. So if that's going to be the case, let's figure out a way to at least find out where those choke points were, and let's get ahead of it so that maybe we don't even need a person. Maybe we can just help him help himself. But at the same time, we have to, if we want it, I mean, that's the question. Do you want it or you don't? Does the city not want it? I don't know.
right, the answer is yes, but I suppose, you know, in some ways, you know, like, I think one of the big problems is probably related to permitting of vendors, and that's kind of an organizational problem that, you know, chasing those people down and getting all that information and getting them permitted is kind of
Tedious.
it is tedious, and if you don't have that information, or if you're adding people at the last minute, that's never gonna be easy, no matter who's nagging you, and you guys know that I'm one of the best nags in town, but, you know, it's not something that I'm planning on doing with my life, and, you know.
Okay, so if you're not going to do it, you're not paid to do it, and Dave's got a few other hats he's got to wear right now, who is going to do it?
Right, well, I mean, you know, the city doesn't pay me anyway, and
Right.
I've got other things on the hop, so, you know, that's just the problem. It is that the city's job to collect information from people who want to hold events here and hold their feet to the fire to make sure they're getting all of their ducks in a row in order to have their event. Which is more of a broader philosophical question. Are we in the business of making sure that everyone is doing all their paperwork all the time? Or should we eventually say, you know, it is up to you to get these things done. You know, we'd love to have you, but, you know, we can't do this for everyone.
Well, you can, look, there's lots of, I don't plan these events or anything, but you could put a blanket permit in a square amount of space and say that any vendor you pull in is going to have to pay X amount. Now, whether you pay it or they pay it, we don't really care. It's going to get paid one way or the other, and these are the requirements. And then you could send an inspector by just to validate that they're setting up properly. I mean, they weren't even getting set up until like the day of. I mean, I was seeing things go up, and I'm like, wow, this is way late to be pulling this off. But
well, that is kind of the way that their construction schedule worked. That they had the plan, that was their plan, just to get set up.
I know, but maybe we get ahead of that and say, we'd like to see this so that we can get, you know, everything properly planned, all the right electrical requirements, make sure that all the food vendors have their proper permits, all that has to be put in place well in advance and set it up 2 to 3 weeks in advance to where you know that's put to bed. You can't add anybody last minute. After a certain date, it's over with. But if they know the rules, they know the expectations, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But I don't know. I wasn't on the city side. I didn't see it. I just know the missing link is we didn't have somebody following up on it. And not that I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that's reality. And that probably caused a little anxiety. But so did ticking off all the businesses. So I don't know if it's just we're darned if we do, darned if we don't. But it's a rough. It's something I think we should try to keep in our city if we can. I mean, I'll be happy to talk with him. I'm sure Wade would be too, and Ryan loves to rock and roll, you can tell that.
He's a chatty Cathy.
But Carol can't do anything, she's on council.
Council does nothing.
Anyway, but I'm just having fun.
That's perfect.
But if you want me to help, I'll be happy to help in any possible way,
It
okay?
backfired on me, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm having
still
fun.
not doing anything.
Yeah,
You're not doing it.
they don't do anything.
They don't do nothing.
Just to change topics real quick on the numbers. So the Quilt Walk did a raffle quilt to raise money for Quilts of Valor, and the check was written, the money was deposited this month and written this month. So it looks like the Quilt Walk for 2023 will have already spent $2,700, but that's not actually what happened. The money will come in, but it's not associated with the Quilt Walk because that comes in at the top line. But obviously the expense goes directly against the Quilt Walk, but anyway.
It was a
it's
great
pass-through.
event. I'm telling you, we've had some good ones. We just do little tweaks here and there. We'll be fine.
Yeah, one of these days we're gonna have, another one that's as good, but that's, we need another year of this before I feel enthusiastic enough to start another one. So do you guys feel comfortable adding the Quilt Walk for 2023, 2024? Or 2022, 2023, I guess, the 2023 Quilt
Yeah.
Walk? Okay,
Yeah.
because I'm gonna pick a date.
Yep. Good, we're getting ahead of it.
It's gonna be the second weekend in October then. Just so you know, put it on your calendars, start making your quilts, boys.
Look, for all the things that go on in this town, and for the most part, most everybody that works, we know y'all work your tail off, so it has nothing to do with that. I just think there's gonna be a few hiccups in anything, and when you do it for the first or second time, and you just learn. I guarantee you the Houston Rodeo, I used to live across the street from the Houston Rodeo in an apartment complex when I was a little guy, and it was just a bunch of cows, and they'd have the little, what you'd see a fair on 105 look like, it was nothing. And now look at it. So it takes years, and it takes a lot of volunteers, and I think that could be something that we could look into. People who love our city and want to be a part of volunteering. Not just we're volunteering now, but not just us, but others that want to get involved in this, and we can rally those troops and be a liaison for the city so that we can get things moving along and make things easier for everybody. So.
They had some security, issue or conversations to work out with the PD. Do not begrudge the PD for the position they're in when they're trying to look at these events. And,
Right.
Because they're thinking about sort of the mundane stuff, like where are the cars going to be, where is the traffic moving to,
Right.
Where are we going to park people, but at the same time worried about things that.
Security and safety thing. We got a bunch of knuckleheads in the world today, so I agree, yeah. Well, it's just a matter of bridging those gaps a little bit and making sure everybody feels comfortable at the end of the day, and there's a good plan going forward. And on the dig side, I've noticed, even in my own organization, so when sometimes you get bigger, then you're still trying to hang on to the things you used to do that you can't do anymore, and maybe it's time for some of those details to be handed off so that they can get covered. But anyway, that's just one guy. There may be other things that come along. I was just thinking, though, it might be good to try to find a way to find a way.
Yeah, I'd love to have him stay with the city.
With that, I'll wrap up my report saying you've got the rest of them. Is there anything else?
Yeah, no, we read it all, cover to cover. I did too. It looks good. The city's looking good. I can't wait to go by Jersey Mike's.
For board inquiry, does anyone have any thoughts on Thanksgiving? So our third, and I know we can't decide anything, so we're kind of just chatting here. We're not making decisions or anything. The third Monday in November is Thanksgiving week, so we would normally take that off. And then the third Monday in December is probably one that we can have a meeting in if we need to, because it's the 19th, and then Saturday is the 24th, and Sunday is the 25th. So I don't know if y'all are thinking yes in November, no in November and yes in December. Kids are usually off all the week of that week of November, so that's typically why council is off if the fourth Tuesday falls in that week, which it will not this year. The council will probably be off the fourth week in December.
It's on the 22nd, which is in that Thanksgiving week. Council meeting.
Oh, right, because it has two. Oh, right, because it's yeah. So council will probably be off in November. So I'm thinking that that's a yes for both of us,
Yeah, it's one of those
and then a maybe for
strange
December.
months where the third Monday and the fourth Tuesday are back to back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So anyway,
You just tell us when we need to be here, at least on, it sounds,
Well, do we
that day
have-
sounds
do we
good.
have to call to cancel, or Nikki can cancel us on our own?
no, we can just post
Postpone it,
it.
okay.
Yeah, notice of cancellation, just
Okay. And then some of us will be up for reappointment. So
135, certainly will do it.
I don't remember. So if you want to still to keep your seat, you'll need to ask for it. Let's see.
I think it's me.
You're up.
Yeah.
So, so that's me, Jeff, Carol, and Ryan.
Oh, we're all up?
Yep.
Wow.
So, somebody from council needs to be on the board anyway, but then the rest of us will have to be considered by.
What about Byron?
No, he's in 2024.
Okay,
Looks like Byron, Dan, and Wade are the 2024 group.
okay. So if we want to re-up, what do we do?
You, there's a, can
Form.
you ask Nikki to send us a form?
Yeah, if we just send the form, that'd be fine. Are you coming back?
I was lucky to get on the first time.
You
The
come back
second
then.
time was for sure.
Yeah, I think so. These are 2-year terms?
They are.
Yeah. God, that 2 years went by fast.
Mhm.
They do.
Yeah.
The only way I got on is that somebody couldn't count to 3 or 4 or whatever it was, and they somehow, they accidentally got me on.
Well, we're glad you're on.
Well, thank you.
Let's keep it going. What do you say? We've made some good progress. You're just really this close to doing something remarkable, I think.
That's real, though. If they get rid of me, then I'm sure my replacement would be willing to sit up there with you all, so, you know.
No. You're fine where you're at.
I
We
actually
can-
like it because I can see everyone.
we
when
can
I'm
see,
talking.
that's right.
That actually makes it much easier to decide what to do next, because I can see what Ryan's thinking.
Jeez.
If he's about to
Makes
speak,
one of
he-
us.
because he usually goes like this, and then you know he wants to say something.
Well, shall we make a motion to adjourn?
Please do.
Okay, I'll make the motion to adjourn the MEDC meeting.
All right, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously, and we are adjourned at 7:33.
Never an opposition of adjournment.
Yeah.
Like the one thing you
It
never.
could happen.